Hi, folks. All right, back again. We're running through 1971 like gangbusters here. Something a little groovier. We're going to jump into the R&B and funk field of 1971. The channel name Subterranean Visions. You know, after the book Subterraneans, about going underground in New York to listen to jazz music in the 50s. And the vision side of it is, the musical vision. Whether it's performing, creating, listening, the visions it creates, the inspirations. Anyway, I appreciate you being here. Scott, I'm a guitar player for 30 plus years, played, a bunch of different instruments. Don't have a huge collection, although it looks like I do. But most of them are either instruments I made or instruments that kind of passed through the family that I've sort of been collecting. And, I've done some audio engineering for half a decade and basically just curious and about music, and always have been kept it in my orbit more or less. So I've always sort of been up and around the world and in the music that's out there. So always open to different music of all different styles. So that's something also in the channel. It's going to be, I know that that people always have their favorites and things like that. But I'm going to always try to be pushing the boundaries a little bit into what I'm listening to and what I'm going to be putting out there. So there's always going to be some new stuff out there. This is about digging deeper into the music making experience, music making, creating the history, and basically trying to maintain the archives of what's out there, what people can access. And we're not I know there's plenty of channels out there that are like more of like a greatest hits jukebox, like, experience this, but, there's enough out there. I'm here to sort of maintain, and create sort of an archive for music that people can come into and enjoy and learn at the same time. How much musical content and the diversity and the quality came out in that one year. I can't imagine living in that year and thinking like nobody made enough money to get all the albums and listen to all the albums that came out every week. You'd have to buy like 10 albums every week to like keep up with all the stuff that came out. So it's just, that's the question I have. When you're growing up, 1971, I was born in 1971, but I wasn't out buying records. But when you were out, which records, were you buying like the Billboard charts? Were you going off, the album releases? How did you know what was coming out? Was it just in the stores? You just saw what was coming out? How did you keep up with the music? How did you keep up with all the music that was coming out on a weekly basis? That's what I want to know. And we can't leave this one out. We got to do this one. This is the second album released in September 1971. Called Pieces of a Man, with on vocals and speaking voice, as voice in general, as the voice, Gil Scott Heron, Brian Jackson on piano and electric piano, Ron Carter on bass and electric bass, Pretty Purdy on drums, Burt Jones on electric guitar, and Hubert Laws on flute and saxophone. That's a pretty good list of musicians right there. Between Ron Carter, Pretty Purdy on drums, the soul master drummer, Hubert Laws on flute. I mean, it's, you got a pretty strong. We'll go into more after we listen to it, but continuing on with the R&B and funk of 1971, let's do it. And this was one where I wanted to do something that I hadn't heard, but I just feel like this is just something I just had to do. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to have to do it. So it is what it is. Sorry, I can't find my fucking... Okay. Here we go. Gil Scott Heron. We're going to do The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Let's listen to it.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lights of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keys, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Okay, I forgot to pause that. It didn't feel right to pause. There's nowhere to jump in. I can't interrupt Gil Scott Heron. I can't interrupt him. It's impossible. It would be the least righteous thing to do. Yeah, that's just amazing. So, just on a musical level, as I said, you had Ron Carter on bass, and he was just running all over that thing, probably electric bass on that, with Purdy, Bernard Purdy, on drums. Just hearing the two of them, first of all, I could just listen to the two of them just jamming on this, because hearing Ron Carter, he's just running all over it, and Purdy's like so smooth. And then you got Hubert Laws on the flute, playing all the, he's doing all the interludes, in and out, in and out. Sounds like a bird, flying around Gil Scott Heron's shoulder. Yeah, no electric guitar on there, so Burt Jones, I'm not sure, he's on some other of the album, yeah, piano, electric piano, Brian Jackson, yeah, he pretty much holds it down. I think he was pretty much his, Gil Scott Heron's original writing partner and playing partner. So yeah, a big part of the probably musical arrangements and things is on Brian Jackson and Gil Scott Heron. So anyway, musically fabulous. Yeah, it is. So this is R&B funk, but it's also in the sort of jazz field at the time. Maybe just because you got a lot of jazz musicians on it, but I don't know. This is one of those that's kind of multi-genre sort of overlap. So, and then obviously Gil Scott Heron, he's not just the lyrically, but just his ability, his music ability to sort of maneuver all around the music, with his lyrics and the phrasing and everything like that is just amazing. It's so poignant. It's got soul to it. It's got, it's right in the music. It's his phrasing and his timing and everything is just so it's a piece of the part of the puzzle part of the jazz puzzle. He's playing with Ron Carter, he's playing with Purdy, he's playing with Hubert Laws. He's in there with him. He's not on top of him. So, Gil Scott-Heron, Bob Thiele made the deal in mid-1970. Neither could imagine what would follow. Thiele was the conduit between art and commerce that allowed Coltrane to make his greatest recordings until his death in 1967, from the Live at the Village Vanguard to A Love Supreme. Gil Scott had said, anyone who has recorded Coltrane and Kerouac can't be that bad, and then Thiele began his own label, Flying Dutchman. Heron, born April 1, 1949 in Jackson, Tennessee, moved to New York in 1962, met his musical collaborator, Brian Jackson, the pianist. Bob Thiele made Heron feel at home, asking them choice of musicians. Jackson said, not believing it. Well, Ron Carter and Hubert Laws, and then 2 days later, Thiele said, I've got him. So this is what Gil Scott has said. You is where life is, and not at Woolworthless, 5 and 10. The message is here, inside the man. Brain cells, heart and soul, until understood and used the message and passed on and used and passed on and used. Gil is less than happy with Thiele's promotion. Did you ever see any ads, he asked rhetorically? And the royalties were suspiciously low. They told us that Pieces of a Man sold 24,000 copies in all. But he said, I know 25,000 who got that album. We know a guy who handled 20,000 just between Philly and D.C. So either Bob Thiele got Jesse James or he Jesse Jamesed us. Either way, we stopped associating with him. So there was a falling out, and I believe, Bob Thiele had a reaction and a sort of thoughtful response to this. Yeah, it was probably a mixed deal where, nobody really got what they wanted. To hear this now, 1971, and I listened to Gil Scott. I've probably listened to a bunch of his albums, and definitely enough where I've taken everything that I enjoy about him and sort of curated it into a playlist of parts of him that I really gravitate towards. But yeah, his voice never left. Even his later stuff when he came out, still had that gravitas. It's amazing that he can just do it lyrically. He can just get you under a spell and into a space where you're just like, I haven't been in this space for 2 years, and then all of a sudden you've just pulled me in here, and it feels like I've missed out on this for my whole life. Listening to him, you just feel like this is sadly missing from any period of society. This is something that it's a part of another amazing part of it is that this came out obviously in 71. There was a lot of cultural uprising and tumultuous things that were happening in society. So it fits in with that the voices were there and they got to be heard through the making of this. But it's sad that this is one of the few voices that actually had some resonance with the population and communication to be able to hear it and take it in and put it back out into the world. As he said, used and passed on and passed on. You have to pass it on, But we're the other voices, There's definitely other voices, but we can make a list of people who were put sort of political ideology and culture into their music. Not as much as in this sense as he does it, but yeah, and that was back then. How about in the 80s and the 90s? Who were the voices that were doing that? I'd have to really dig to find out, I feel like, especially in today's society. But anyway, a real period in time, that allowed this to happen. So Gil Scott-Heron, 1971. This is how far we can get, between the folk and the rock and the jazz that allows this stuff to come out. This is why it's such a wonderful, wonderful year and period for music in general. So what's coming up for us? I don't know. We're jumping into, I definitely want to do another full album reaction. In what genre, I'm not sure yet. We're going to develop a more retrospective into the Canterbury scene and some of those bands. And it's going to be pretty much a pretty expansive set with that one, because there's a lot of groups, and I want to probably look at more of the debut albums of most of the groups. and kind of do a nice little retrospective on that, because that's something I haven't heard a ton of, and I definitely need to do a deeper dive on that, and interested in everybody's opinion, and for sure, shoot a band, shoot an album or a song on that you think particularly needs to be showcased on, and I will definitely take that into consideration. I appreciate you all being here. Look forward to appreciate all your comments and everything like that specifically. So, you can support this endeavor, always by, liking the video, by subscribing, and just communicating, everything with me. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.